beautiful people, I'm back again. So basically I wanted to share with you how I found out I had kidney disease. So basically in 2013, I was 15 at the time. I fell very ill. So I went to the emergency room with my dad. They did a urine test and they basically said I was leaking protein and everything, so they wanted to take some bloods. And then when the bloods came back, they told us my kidneys weren't doing well. So basically I was rushed off to ICU and started some medication and drips and everything like that, because also when I was ill I didn't eat for like a week or two. So when I was in ICU, I wasn't sure how long I was in ICU for. Maybe a week or two, I'm not sure. They did some tests and all that kind of stuff. But then they did a biopsy, and when the biopsy results came back, before the biopsy results came, I was very nervous because I didn't know what the results would be. I wasn't sure of anything really. So when the results came back, I was relieved that we had some reason as to why it was happening. So basically what the doctor said, they diagnosed me with nephrotic syndrome, an inflammation caused by a viral infection. So basically that's what they concluded. So basically they started me on medication for that. And I'm glad they could stop the progression of my kidneys. So basically when the results came back as well, the doctors had said I'm now at 40% function. So 60% are like dead. They're irreparable. You can't get them back. So that was really upsetting, especially with like the future, because at that age I wasn't really informed a lot. I wasn't really educated a lot on the whole renal process. So I wasn't sure what the future would hold, but my doctors were very good. The team there at the hospital was very good. They were very informative. They gave me medications. They told me what foods to avoid, and everything like that. So they were very good. They were very friendly as well. I also didn't know what GFR was, as well as creatinine. So GFR is the rate of your kidney. So when you are going into renal failure, I'm skipping ahead quite a bit, but when you go into renal failure, your GFR is below 15%. So basically that's like the stage where you'll start dialysis. So my GFR was still a bit higher than that, so I was still okay not to do dialysis. So yeah, and then creatinine is obviously the acidity level in your body. So I didn't know anything about that. So obviously it was best to avoid foods that would raise it and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, so basically that's a short rundown of how I found out I had kidney failure. And then when I was 18, because over the years I would get sick, just it's something you can't really avoid, getting sick. So I'd get sick, I would be away from school from like weeks at a time and all that kind of stuff. And then when I was 18, so it was the end of my last high school year, so my matric year. So the end of my matric year, I fell very ill. I think it was mainly stress induced. Because of final exams and everything, it's really hectic. And then I got super stressed. I got sick, went back to the emergency room, and they basically said my kidneys are done. You can't save them. There's nothing to do. We have to prep for dialysis. So that was a Friday or a Saturday. I think it was a Friday. So I think the Thursday evening I was sick. Friday morning, I told my grandparents I was sick, so they phoned the school, told them I'm not coming in for the exam. They drove me back home because I went to school in a different town. They brought me back, we went to the hospital. Yeah, so that's when they said my kidneys were done. So then they wanted to prep for dialysis, but there wasn't a surgeon in for the weekend. So then on the Sunday, I think Monday, surgeon, on the Monday we booked for theatre. It was the 14th of November. I will remember that day forever because it was also my brother's birthday and a big moment in my life, you know. So we prepped for surgery, we went in. They put the port in my chest, so that's why I've got the scar here. So if you ever see pictures, it's a scar. It's nothing else, it's a scar. So prepped for surgery, went in, came back. I was in ACU, I think. And then I was in one of the cubicles, isolated cubicles in the ACU. Just because it was after surgery and all that kind of stuff. So as soon as I woke up, already prepped me for dialysis. And so with dialysis, my first experience with dialysis, it was quite something because, so obviously there's a tube hanging out my chest. So, there's a tube, so from my neck, there's a small scar, you can't see it. Tube comes out there, and it comes out into two. So one for venous, one for arterial. And so basically, they have to prep, so they use saline, so they inject saline into the port. And that was a very funny feeling, like I don't know how to explain it. It wasn't pins and needles, it wasn't like numbing, it was just a very weird feeling, like a whole sensation through my body. That was very weird. And so then they connected me to the machine, and then they started the machine. With dialysis in the hospital, I didn't really have any side effects of anything like that, but I did sleep a lot. The first few sessions, because I stayed in for like a week. The first few sessions, I slept a lot, and my mom took off leave, and she like stayed with me most through the sessions, the first few sessions. And then I was introduced to the team at the unit that I dialyze now, and they were very friendly. They explained everything that happens at the unit. They were very informative. And then when I was discharged, I was very nervous because obviously you have to keep the port wrapped, like always. So they obviously they cleaned it and they wrapped it. At the hospital they didn't, because I was going to be staying in the bed the whole time. And so I was home. I was very scared to like shower and all that kind of stuff. Well, showering was fine, but like bathing and swimming, because like you don't want the plaster to like get wet and come off. So I was very nervous for that. If you hear that, that's our kitten coming into the room. Yeah. So, yeah. And then I went to the dialysis unit and met the team. I was so shy. I was very shy. I will say one thing with dialysis and the whole ordeal, it made me a lot more outspoken person. It really did, because dealing with like different nurses and meeting different patients at the unit, not always talking to them, but like I sometimes do. Yeah, so it made me a very more outspoken person. And then the first couple of sessions, or quite, I think the majority of the sessions with the dialysis, with this port, I got super flushed and I couldn't breathe and my face would go red, and I really didn't like it. It was generally the first hour to 2 hours. I really didn't like it. And then they obviously tried to do the port in my arm, here the graft. So they tried to do a fistula, not graft, fistula. So fistula is basically where they take the top vein and connect it to an artery that's deeper to make the vein on top thicker and bigger, because they're taking out a lot of blood and they're putting back a lot of blood, so they need a big vessel. So yeah, so that takes 6 weeks to develop. So it was around Feb, March, April, I'm not quite sure, where they checked to see if it had developed, and unfortunately it didn't. So then they put in the graft. So they put in the graft, I think maybe a week or two later, or 3, we started using it, because you don't have to wait so long to use it, because it doesn't need to develop, because it's literally a pipe in your arm. So we started using that and it started working well. I hated the needles. I hated the whole process. In the first few sessions I didn't want to be needled because it was so sore, because these aren't regular needles, these are thick needles, these are really thick needles, and not just 1 but 2, and not just like in for a minute to take blood, but like in for 4 hours. So in the beginning I really didn't like it, so I started using Emla cream. So that's like a numbing cream. At the beginning I didn't use it properly because I didn't know how to use I didn't know how to use the cream, but then someone told me how to use it properly, so then I started using it properly, and yeah. What else? So I don't use the Emla cream anymore because I was in hospital for 1 stage without it, and like I did dialysis almost every day, and I just got used to it, I guess. And also it's a bother when you finish the Emla cream and you have to go get it. No one likes going to the chemist to get like medication, so I just never really got more, so I don't use Emla cream anymore. It does hurt sometimes, especially, so basically, the tube, so it's a tube. If they go in and it touches either the top or the bottom of the wall, you can feel it and it hurts and it's uncomfortable. If it's otherwise, they sometimes like poke through it, like on the sides, and it really hurts. Sometimes it hurts to the extent where I tell them to take it out and they'll have to needle me again. I think the most I've ever been needled in 1 session was maybe 4 or 5 times, and that was a really hectic session. That was hectic because when you get needled, like for me personally, when I get needled, I wanted both needles to go in and no problems, because once it goes in and there's some sort of problems, I start panicking, I start getting anxiety, and then I start having like a small panic attack, and then I start getting flushed. And like I don't want to get flushed or have a panic attack or anything like that at the start of dialysis. I would like to have my dialysis smooth and comfortable and done, you know? So generally, for the most part, because all the nurses that I have been needled by, they're very good. They're all very good. Obviously there will be days where they hit the wall or go through, or, you know, it happens. No one's perfect. And then those days really suck, but I mean generally for the most part they're very good. They do a good job and all that kind of stuff. So that basically is how I got kidney disease and a bit more. So that is the video. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, please give that a thumbs up. Comment if you want, share with your friends, and I hope you'll keep following for more videos.